right, welcome back to another Two Guys with Questionable Credentials with your hosts, Adam and Tom. Tom, how are we doing today?
We're doing all right. It's Sunday weekend, mowing season, phenomenal.
Yes, time where you get to enjoy yourself with a piece of machinery and hope for the best that no one dies.
Well,
we might want to edit that part out.
What are we talking about today?
Well, we're actually going to stay with current events, and we're going to be actually discussing Maul.
Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord.
Yes, thank you for that correction. So I actually finished Maul a week ago, and Tom binge-watched it and finished it this morning. So hopefully our memories align a little bit. So overall, what did you think of the series?
I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I love Sam Witwer, who plays Darth Maul.
Yeah, I think that they had a lot of good characters. Maul was central, obviously, because it's his series, but we got to see some new characters and droids introduced that add some new flavor to the franchise.
I can't remember what the droid's name is, but he's my new favorite. The way he talks, and he's just a little sarcastic jerk.
Oh, is that Maul's droid?
Yeah, I can't
Is it 2BOT or something like that?
No, that was Two Boots. That was the police droid.
Oh, okay.
Spybot, that's his name.
Spybot, that's it, sorry, yes. Yep. Again, our credentials are not associated or bestowed by anyone.
A couple of things I thought one of the things I thought was interesting right out of the gate is that it was weird to me. I don't remember the name of the planet we're on, but how I guess it makes sense that some planets wouldn't already have an Imperial presence. I kind of just assumed that the Empire was everywhere all the time, all at once. So, it was interesting how Lawson, the police officer, was doing everything he could to keep the Empire off of his planet for reasons that they explained later.
Right, it was kind of like a call us if you need us, and if you need us, we're never going to leave kind of arrangement with the Empire. Interesting, because they never talk about that planet's like government or anything. So there's no like senator or governor or anything that you traditionally hear. Like in Rebels, you had Lothal, so you had Governor Price, and you had I forget the senator. Oh, I can't even remember at this point. But yeah, no, you always seem to have that. But this time, there was nothing.
Yeah. Then a couple other, I don't know, some people I saw online, some people are just never happy with anything. But they were talking about how, oh shocker, another Star Wars show, what's the plot line going to be? 2 more Jedi that survived Order 66. But, I can see why people are kind of sick of that. Like, it's kind of a trope at this point. But also, it makes sense, though, if you think about it. I don't know how many Jedi there were before, like, during the prequels. I've heard it's, like, a couple... I'll see if I can...
it has to be a couple thousand, because, the Temple, you always see dozens of Jedi around, and you know that they're always out doing missions and stuff for the Senate and the Republic, so there has to be thousands of Jedi.
Well, I just Googled it. So it says out of approximately 10,000 Jedi Knights and Masters, over 9,900 Jedi were killed. Which I guess makes sense, because...
Okay, that makes sense.
Having, obviously Order 66 was devastating, but they're, it's unrealistic to believe that they got every single one. I understand that, and
you get to see that with Maul a little bit, because, we got to see with what was it? Tales of the Jedi. You have Darth Vader and you have his Inquisitors and the Grand Inquisitor, whose their sole purpose is to hunt down all the Jedi that Order 66 missed. So you get to see that actually happening in Maul, where they show up because Maul is there, and the Emperor obviously wants him gone. He is the thorn in his side that just can't seem to ever be taken care of. So he sends one Inquisitor. And oops, okay, I couldn't do it. So then a second Inquisitor shows up. Oops, I couldn't take care of it either. And then you send in the big guns. You send in the Dark Lord himself. And kudos to the writers of Maul, because I think it was about episode 8, the end of episode 8 or beginning of episode 9. Just a thought that popped in my head that I had never thought about before is, did Darth Maul and Darth Vader ever face each other? And I started thinking about it, and then, bam, end of episode 9, beginning of episode 10, it happens. So if that was an Easter egg that they planted in people's heads, or I was just a little bit ahead of my time on that, then, I think, was it the fight we needed? No, but it was the fight that we deserved.
One of the things that I hate about Darth Maul, it's not even his character. I was listening to an interview one time with Freddie Prinze Jr., who played Kanan.
Yes, Kanan Jarrus, yes.
And he was talking about how Darth Maul represents, it was some sort of, I don't know if it was a philosopher or what. I think it's like Greek mythology or something like that. The story of this guy, how his whole thing is like he wants to get the boulder up the hill.
Oh,
and
yes,
he gets it all the way almost to the top just for it to roll back down.
Yes.
Which makes sense. How many times have we been through this? Darth Maul, gets all the way up to Emperor's apprentice, gets knocked down a peg. He gets found by his brother, Savage Opress, and then he takes over the pirates, then gets knocked down again. Then he tries to take over the Mandalorians, then the Shadow Collective, and we obviously know, because of Rebels, that he dies before the events of A New Hope. Mm-hmm. But it's just a shame, because they've done so much with his character, considering he went from a one-off villain in the movie to having this who didn't say anything. I think he only had 3 lines.
Yeah, he didn't have much. I mean, it was just the presence of another Sith Lord, and what drew the Jedi into the Phantom Menace. And then at the end, okay, he dies, good triumphs over evil. But then he just keeps appearing over and over again. And it's nice because we get his backstory. And you sympathize with him a little bit. Because this, I forget which episode it is. I think it's episode 7, where you see when Sidious takes him away. Mm-hmm. And he's a kid, he's looking forward. This guy's going to do good things for him because he has, he's an orphan. He's with his brothers, and then he becomes Sidious's apprentice, and he's off to do good things. And then Obi-Wan cuts him in half.
And I always love whenever we get to see a clip into Sith training, how in that short clip where there was the flashback to he lost a sparring session with Sidious, and so he gets Force lightning. Similarly to the Clone Wars, when we got to see
the beatings will continue until morale improves. Right,
exactly. Yeah. Which then, speaking of apprentices, the story of Devin, I don't remember her last name. Devin Azara. Which also, I just want to take a second. I love when we have all these fun Star Wars names, and then occasionally they just get lazy. Like, something like, it's funny, like, in both sides, like, Legend King, you got Luke, you got Kyle, you got Ben, you got my personal favorite in Star Wars Visions, Dan. Just as straight, and then Devin. I don't know. I guess it makes sense that those names could exist far, far away, but it's just, when you're, like, I'm looking at your list here, you got Brander Lawson, you got Ludi Vario, and Master, I can't say, Echo Diodaki, and then Devin. But I liked how they showed Maul just kind of slowly getting to her, influencing her thoughts, her outlook.
It's like, okay, well, we had this series called Acolyte, and we saw that kind of same thing happen there too. So let's kind of recycle that a little bit.
Well, also, and I'm not breaking new ground here talking about this, but this also pulls kind of heavily from George Lucas. Apparently, it was in 2020, I believe. George Lucas had, I don't know, he released an article or in an interview, said that he had plans for his own 7, 8, 9. And part of it had to do with the return of Darth Maul. And he had a Twi'lek apprentice named Darth Talon, who was already a pre-existing character from Legends. Mm-hmm. I believe I think it was part of the book series Star Wars Legacy, which had to do with, like, the late descendant of Luke Skywalker, a guy named Cade Skywalker. And I won't get to, but so it would appear that they were taking inspiration from that.
Well, and that does make sense with the direction that the franchise seems to be going. They're pulling more from what Lucas probably wanted, because that seems like that's what the fans want, rather than them going off and creating their own.
I think part of it too is that, as I understand it, when George Lucas was still running Star Wars, like, Dave Filoni was one of his, like, underlings. Mm-hmm. So Dave is obviously doing his own thing, but also he is heavily influenced on how George Lucas explained everything to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other nice thing about Maul is, yes, you do have a lot of repeating themes, and one of the cool things that I really like about Star Wars is they have now given us 2 more lovable droids. You have 2 Boots, who is this naive police robot.
By the books.
I'm going to do this. And then by the end, he's like, oh, maybe I should not be as by the book as I should have been on this, because we need the Empire. Oh, the Empire's here. It's great. And, oh my God, the Empire's trying to kill me.
The Empire's kind of ruining everything. Yeah.
And then, the lineage, you have R2-D2, the original sarcastic droid of Star Wars. And then you have, BB-8 in the sequel trilogy. And now we have Spybot. Oh, and I forgot Trapper there too, from Rebels. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think the droid, I think, that has caused the most carnage and death and destruction in the Star Wars universe. But then you have Spybot, who's just this sarcastic, just evil bidding little droid that just enjoys creating chaos. I liked him. I really liked him. And then whenever he spoiler, whenever he goes to the last, you can tell he was devoted to Maul.
Yeah.
Whenever he finally gets taken out at the end, I felt a little bit bad. It's like, first of it's like, oh, thank God he's gone. But then it's like, oh, I've got to kind of miss him.
So, a couple of things, because I literally, like, 2 hours ago watched the final episode. And a couple of things that stood out to me was I enjoy how Darth Vader is so powerful that the majority of the time that he is fighting, he can't be bothered to, like, he's putting the minimalist amount of effort into it. Like, he's one-handing his lightsaber, it's not even worth his full attention, and he's winning, so it works. Like, why would you? And
and just how everyone describes, like, everyone, you go back in Rebels, whenever Vader is chasing them during season 2. And whenever he gets close, you have Kanan and Ezra that are like, oh, I feel the coldness, I feel the evil. And you have that same thing, like, he's not even, like, he's in the forest waiting for them. And everyone's like, we have a really bad feeling about this. And then, boom, the lightsaber opens up, the red, and then you know who's coming. And everyone just feels that. The Jedi feel that. Even the non-Force people are like, we have a really bad feeling about this. It's just Vader's presence. He is, at this point, he is at his height. So, I mean, that was really interesting. And you bring up a really good point, Tom. It's like he's only putting the effort in that he thinks he needs to put into it. He's letting the Inquisitors do most of the work because, in typical Vader fashion, I'm sure, as soon as, we get to see Maul and everyone leaving the planet and, the next, what's going on there. But then, on the planet, Vader's probably down there with those 2 Inquisitors, like, in chokeholds. Like, you have failed me again. Yeah. There's some crap going down. And then Vader's going to go back to Mustafar, and he's going to get on with the Emperor. And the Emperor's going to completely lose his crap on him because you let Maul escape. You had 2 Star Destroyers, you had 2 Inquisitors, and you couldn't take care of Maul. So what's the after effect that's going to be?
Yeah.
We've seen the Emperor, he's a very kind, understanding boss. Okay, we're not putting you on a little bit of a performance improvement plan, and oh, by the way, here's some Force lightning to take you within an inch of your life.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing, and it's gonna seem like a tangent, but so I don't know. Did you notice that Darth Maul's lightsaber is different? So obviously at the end of The Phantom Menace, his lightsaber gets cut in half. Mm-hmm. And one half just kind of disappears off camera. So because he finishes the fight, loses, but finishes the fight with the one hilt. In the Clone Wars, he got, I don't know which half it is, but got one half of his lightsaber back. When he uses just the single one until we saw him in the Clone Wars Season 7. And I only bring attention to it because, for 2 reasons. One, I just like to point out the fun fact here that for those of you listening, because I'm not, there's a picture, looks like it's of Darth Maul's lightsaber, how he's got the original one on the right here, and then the new one on the left. That hilt is actually reused from the canceled Clone Wars. Because, you remember how I told you that book, Dark Disciple, about Asajj Ventress and... Yeah. She had that yellow lightsaber that she bought off the black market. That was actually the hilt that she was supposed to use in the show. They repurposed the asset for Darth Maul, and then that's why she has... But more importantly, the reason I bring any of this up is that I don't know, I'm sure I'm not breaking ground, that this is like nobody caught this detail, but when at the end of episode 10, when Devon's master dies,
yes,
and she gets disarmed, she loses her lightsaber, Darth Maul tosses one of his to her.
Right,
and
yes.
I just thought it was interesting that the half that he tossed to her was his half that he had when he was an apprentice under Darth Sidious.
Ooh.
I don't know if there's anything to that.
Foreshadowing.
I just thought I was like, throughout the whole episode, it seemed like we were heading towards, and obviously we did head towards. She wants to be his apprentice now, and like I said, maybe that's not anything. Maybe that's not as clever as I think it is. But
and then I think a lot of the things that Maul did was to get her to be his apprentice at the end anyway, because there's a couple times you saw in the fight against Vader, there's a couple times that he could have intervened to help Devon's master, Master Docky, and he doesn't, because he wants him to probably be killed because he knows what the result of that's going to be. It means he's been manipulating her for 4 or 5 episodes at this point. He's starting to draw out the anger in her, and her master being killed by Vader is just what he needs to completely get the anger to come out and for her to abandon the Jedi principle. So in the end, Maul gets what he wants. He escapes. He has a path to the future. And he has an apprentice. Now, obviously, that relationship doesn't go that far because we don't see that whenever we go into Rebels and we see Maul again. It'll be interesting to see because they did not. There's a lot of loose threads that they leave it open. Maybe we're going to see that get filled in a future Tales of the Empire or Tales of something. Or maybe another series at some point in the future. There's, Maul's timeline is almost complete at this point, but there is a decent gap now between where we left off with Shadow Lord and whenever they find Maul in that Sith temple, whenever Kanan and Ezra find him. So
yeah, I believe that there is going to be a season 2 because I saw online, as far as the timeline goes, that this show takes place maybe a year or 2 years after the Clone Wars, or would be Revenge.
Yeah, it's probably within 5 years of the Clone Wars ending. So there's a good 10 to 15 years before we get to see the beginning of where Rebels is. Because what was it? It was 19 years between the formation of the Empire and whenever the Empire, the Battle of Yavin. It's like
something like that.
Yeah,
I've never been good at the, BBY, ABY timeline.
Yeah, that could be, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 episodes by itself. So. Well, we're starting to get towards the end. So any final thoughts? I just wanted to we're far enough removed from the Republic at this point where planets and people are recognizing that the Empire is something they don't really want. And whenever the Empire does show up, they do their imperial thing of just taking everything over and beginning to get the resources and everything that they need. Because if there's anything that this planet has, I guarantee you're going to have Krennic showing up next, or at some iteration there, you're going to have ISB showing up. You're going to now have an imperial governor. You're going to have a garrison. So that world is now an imperial world, 100%. So, I really like Lawson's character. I really liked his son's character. I'd be interested to see what they do with his son's character because now, he went, at the beginning, son of divorced parents, star athlete. Dad's not always around because he's a workaholic cop. But now he's broken and he's shattered after leaving. So, is there a General Lawson during the rebellion that maybe was skimmed over or mentioned once or something? I don't know, but you figure you add another 15 years in, he's going to be a middle-aged human man at that point, so maybe his story isn't over yet.
Yeah, maybe. Or will be continued on in season 2, and he'll be
Yeah.
more fodder for Maul to dispose of.
Who knows? He could have been Red 3.
Well, maybe. All right, well, I think that's going to do it on, I believe this is episode 4. So, I guess, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below what you thought about the Maul series and what you would like to see in the future, or what you think they did right or wrong. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon as Two Guys, Questionable Credentials. Facebook page has the same name. If you want to reach out to us, we have a Gmail account, 2guysnocreds@gmail. All right. Goodbye. All right, that's the show. Thanks for hanging out with us for another episode of Two Guys, Questionable Credentials. If you laughed, learned something, or are now somehow more confused than when you started, then we've done our job. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend or an enemy. We're not picky. And remember, everything discussed here is just conversation, speculation, and two people confidently wandering through topics they may or may not fully understand. Please take none of this as legal, medical, or emotional advice. We'll see you next time.